I planned for mine to be as small as it was. I mean, I was like, well, if I get like 20, is it 23, whatever the math was, hardcover backers, like I
Mhm.
should probably, put a goal something. He's like, well, you have bigger problems if you can't get 23. I was like, he's like, no, you should put it higher. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's literary fiction. And that's not done on the platform. I mean, I was even talking to some Kickstarter employees that were like, yeah, there's really not, that's not something that's there. So I lowered it. I'm like 18, and that's assuming if people disappoint in the way people tends to disappoint, let's keep it
Mhm.
at 18. And it's kind of, followed.
Moving across genres.
Right. Also bear in mind too, the strike. People are not working. I met a table. I was checking out writer's block at New York Comic Con to understand, is that a right fit for me or is Artist Alley, right? One of the creators had a live Kickstarter, was a prose writer, fantasy writer. They had no idea the strike was going on. And they're like, that explains so much. We usually get like so many new backers around this time. And like we got not one new backer at the 48 mark, at the 24-hour mark. Um, coincidence or not. But I think that, not I think, I know Kickstarter employees are being very respectful. I just wish the creative community, those that are aware, creator community, would get more involved in, being vocal and writing to the CEO or whatever, whoever it is that they want us to write to. Because even if, let's say, we don't agree with their two small demands, right? For whatever reason, they're the employees, they work there. There's only about 100 of them. They're the ones that are promoting our campaigns. It's not just like this cold algorithm. They're people we meet, they're people that really believe in our projects. And, I feel like they're there for our projects. And if these are working conditions and this is what they're not crazy conditions that they're, demanding to at least put in contract, and they have the support of the New York Times Guild. Like I think I mentioned this in the forum, in the strike, members were there saying, we went through this, hold strong. So it's not like they're asking for, purple apples. I don't know where I came up with that. But anyway, it'd be nice to get some more noise from the creator community and supporting the employees that have helped us with our projects.
One of your claim to fame, right, is the launching of a small zine campaign and how that set you up to be able to do such things as the art books that surround you.
Hey, it was a
Amazing.
springboard. It was my first solo Kickstarter. So, um, before that, just to give background, I've been a part of so many Kickstarter anthologies, and really being a cheerleader, like really getting into it. And I know that's not everyone's thing, but I was loving it. And people, editors started noticing, and Kickstarter started noticing. Shelley Bond, for example, Insider Art, loved how I marketed. She loved my story. And she's like, you were putting like 200% in this. Like, and that led to like a year relationship of, I wouldn't want to use the word mentoring me, but like getting ready a graphic novel in case she got an imprint. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
So wonderful opportunity there. But Kickstarter was also, noticing how many anthologies I was in, and really being a cheerleader. And at the time, I think I was on my second agent, and I was just frustrated because my work, I didn't know if my work was going out. I didn't have the greatest experience with agents, which could be a whole different panel, but a necessary part of my own journey. Um, and comics takes time, and I'm like waiting for art. So, and I also like to update and update my public health career. Like, gee, I haven't been in the 9 to 5 market. Let me make sure I put something out there that shows I still have that brain working in case I ever need to step in. So I remember Oriana and Kickstarter saying, hey, if you ever, I like what you're doing. If you ever have a project, think about Kickstarter. If you ever do your own thing. And in a world of rejections, we all know this, right? It's so nice to finally hear from someone, you're welcome here. Like, try us, like, pitch us. So I work good with nudges. This is a perfect example of working great with nudges. And I'm like, you know what? I'm into doing zines now. I'm going to put my public health hat. And yeah, so I launched my own little. I mean, I still can't understand how I did this, Patrick, if I think about it. So I came up with How Not to Be Colonized by Outreach Programs, a how-to zine on working with people that offer you stuff. And I did like my Andromeda hat, these little folded during COVID, we were all either baking bread or whatever. I was learning how to do zines. And then I worked with a graffiti artist Dister for his version, and I worked with Patrick for some postcard art that went with it. And it was a public health benefit, meaning like it's a buddy system. You back one, I donate one to community groups. And I was so astounded. First of all, I raised $2,000. I was like, for my little zine, that was like amazing. I'm pretty sure it was 2000. Had over close to 100 backers. This was my first project. So, and then the reach, like the amount of like, transgender clinics, medical school libraries. I mean, it went everywhere, everywhere around the country. And so it was a really feel good, making me feel really excited about the potential of the Kickstarter community, collaborating with artists like you, Patrick,
Mhm.
um, and a nice little small project to start out with, to then follow up with the massive event horizon. So that was
Yeah,
my first start.
I mean, you jump from a zine, right, to a
I did.
massive art book,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you did the groundwork of building an imprint around it, right?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely was spending. I mean, Event Horizon was years in the work because there was just so many, new pieces to commission for, and trying to understand the theme and working on artist schedule, and yes, coming up with an imprint and trademarking and trying to do um, everything correctly and everything coming up with a logo. I'm like, I should probably get a logo for this. Learning what it's like to, there's a difference between doing a little zine like that and doing an actual book that needs an ISBN number. And like, when you're dealing with prose, you need the library catalog information. And if you're self-publishing, they won't do it free. So you have to hire a librarian. So like there was a lot of work put in to make this as legitimate of a book as possible, given that I was entering it and understanding my angle at the time was publishing within Kickstarter, as a platform. And so for prose, you kind of have to be perfect. Like nobody likes self-publishing isn't respected as much, in particular literary fiction. Genre, you can kind of get away with things, and certainly there are uh, books that my oldest, for example, found in Barnes and Noble, a self-published title that was viral on TikTok. And I couldn't believe, she's like, there's so many typos in here. And like, it doesn't have the things that your book, Mom. And I'm like, this must be selling, right? Like, but not for the case like Event Horizon, that the prose stories are definitely literary. So, for that one, that was a totally different campaign. In that, I hired an advertising agency. I got a book trailer done for it. Um, and I think, and I treated it also not just as, hey, buy a book, but investment opportunities for people that believed in what I was doing, and either, hey, do you want 10 books? Or do you want to give me $1,000? You keep like two books and you're investing in my imprint. So yeah, big difference.
Shoot, and so timeline, I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking that there was like what, like a year and a half, like a 18-month
It,
timeline between
it
that
was,
first.
I was afraid you're going to ask that, but like, luckily, I put publication dates on my zines. So, the zine, this, How Not to Be Colonized by Outreach Programs, was published in November of 2021. And Event Horizon Stories of No Turning Back, which had three covers, by the way. Karen S. Darbo, Armando Ramirez, and Bluster One, James Alicea. That was the campaign was May 2024. before, and it was officially published in December of that same year. Hardcovers went out, I think, in like January.
It's really interesting because I think about like you know, what's a good lead time between my project is ready and then time to build a campaign, like
Right. Well, look, everything I do, and even, Gamal knows if he's on a panel like with me, like when I was on that panel at New York Comic Con with him and Kickstarter, like I break those rules and I would not necessarily tell people to necessarily follow what I do. I went in without really an email base. No matter what I do, my email base kind of stays the same. But it did grow after my Zine 100. I mean, that was the biggest growth of my email list. So, but they say have that. You bring your audience there, and that is certainly true. When I'm live now with To Love Like Venus, it just went off. The campaign ended. There's a literary romance, excuse me, a romance novel on there that just hit 1 million. And there was a whole interview on like, hey guys, how did you get this? It's like 4 romance authors. They did a massive pre-campaign and they built up a massive email list beforehand. So people will tell you, yeah, definitely bring your crew to the platform. The other thing, like I remember, not to, Charlie Stickney, so nice to quote. He's such a great example. I'm not speaking for him, but I do remember him in maybe in our online discussions, and I see this when he sends stuff out. He has that timing to a T. Like when you get rewards from his comics campaign, I think it's White Ash, you will see a postcard for the new one Kickstarter campaign coming up. So he definitely, that's a system that works for me. I don't work like that. I mean, I kind of work more like how you expressed for yourself by gut. I decided a month ahead that I was going to do my next Kickstarter to Love Like Venus. What's in season for me? What does my life allow at the time? I take less of a business approach, although I am business savvy and make sure I do things nice and clean, and more like what does my life allow right now? And what I know I have this graphic novella that is perfect for Kickstarter. Um, uh, but that artist won't be ready to even consider looking at it till November. All right, what am I going to do to fill the time? It's more of circumstance and what's going on in life. Now, those things tend to align with me later on. I launched To Love Like Venus, a literary fiction uh, book, and we could talk about how that's also nuts to do on Kickstarter. And then a week or two later, I'm invited to be a panelist at the Brooklyn Book Festival to talk about love, all about love, in combination with a different author, which is what my book's about, my Kickstarter is about. So, sometimes you just feel like you say the force, Patrick, but there are certain ways to do this more scientifically.
Oh, agreed. And while we're on the topic, let me share your Kickstarter page. Welcome, Bob. Um, Let me just adjust some. I have multiple screens and multiple monitors, but can you see the page?
Yeah,
Are we
I
on
can see
it?
it.
So Bob, since you're here, I think you and Stephanie have met before at other calls. Bob is just in the midst of his first Kickstarter campaign, which has funded. And right now we're
Congrats.
looking at Stephanie's current campaign, which is a genre breakout, let's call it, right? Like,
Yeah, so again, not smart to put literary fiction. Literary fiction is not something you self-publish. That's just period. You don't, if you, to be a respected literary fiction writer, you're never promoting your book, you're never selling your book. It's pretty snobby and elitist. So just in itself, since you're self-publishing, that's a no-no. It's also not represented as much on Kickstarter. It's Kickstarter tends to be more in terms of the prose, more genre friendly, meaning romance, fantasy, horror, etc. So why do it, Stephanie? Right? Like I sat there because I didn't plan on putting my novels on Kickstarter, my comics yet, my Event Horizon, which is comics and a whole bunch of other stuff.
I call it art book, you know.
Art book, thank you. Yes, yes, thank you, Patrick. I sat there and like, why do this, right? Because I told myself I wasn't, because I did the math and I'm like, yeah, maybe 18. Like maybe I'll get 18 backers. But I did it for this reason. It'd be stupid not to. I've had two successful campaigns. I'm always a project we love, so I clearly am doing something right that attracts Kickstarter that like, yeah, she's doing some good stuff. Um, that's an untapped pool of people that actually might buy my book, either from past campaigns or because Kickstarter, it's cheaper to advertise through Kickstarter. Say, get a project. Okay, if you can get a project we love, great, Stephanie, we accomplished, we did that. That's advertising. I see it as a cheaper ad agency than, going to an ad agency. And indeed, for this campaign, close to half are actually new backers. They're new backers.
That's
Um,
fantastic. I just want to take a quick look at your campaign because I thought I'd see it. Backer favorite
Oh, I'm
is
a backer
also,
favorite, a super backer, and a repeat creator. I think those are the three things you can get.
yeah, yeah, and I mean each one of them have to carry their own little bit of weight, right? But this means, right, you're getting a lot of smiley faces. Everyone's clicking the smiley face
Oh,
when they think
great.
about your campaign, and yeah, like
Yeah. So, and the other thing too, while I wait for reviews, or I haven't sent the book out for reviews because you need those for pros in particular, outside reviews. I already have a little badge. It's called A Project We Love. Someone from the outside looked at this and said, this looks like some good stuff. So I went with it, right? I went with it despite, oh, I won't have the optics of like how successful Event Horizon was, raising over 12,000, over 100 backers, etc. What is success, right? Like I'm not trying to attract an agent, right? I I think this is great. So I say this because I feel as creators, particularly if you're going to cross genres and mediums, you can't compare apples and oranges. But I will say this is why people adopt pen names for when they switch genres. J.K. Rowling, if I may use her name, did the same when she did went from Harry Potter to what is it, horror? I don't know what she did. Adult. Nah, I'm Stephanie Nina. Like I could be Andromeda when I zine, and I do that because that's how I didn't hire a copy editor. That is my literary fiction, elitism coming in. Just that's me being free. And I also didn't hire an artist. That's my little writing. But so I have to distinguish that between Janice Point Press, right? But that's as much of a pen name you're gonna get out of me.
do you want to share a little bit about Janice Point Press and just, because I mean,
Sure, sure. And
uh,
if you want, Patrick, I actually created I have an online portfolio. If you go to either my website or Janice Point Press, I created a portfolio for vending. It's got a lot of visuals. If you felt like it, if you feel people like to see
yeah,
them.
I
So
mean,
Janice
let me
Point
let me
Press
get it.
is just simply, yeah, click on our portfolio on the upper right, all the way at the end to the right. There
Oh,
you go.
like I'm forgetting how to read too.
It's okay if you just scroll down. So I okay, what is this? And I'll tell you the print. To vend at events, it's so complicated to explain. I'm an indie author, but I also have an imprint, and we want to see your portfolio. I think for artists, it's easier when you're a writer. It's kind of harder to do that. So I said I ought to have a page that shows off all the reviews I got, that shows off the books in terms of the type of things I can sell at your events or what type of panelist I could be, um, and how my table looks like set up. So I highly recommend, and I got into an event um, by changing how I present my work just recently, whether, coincidence or not. But Janice Point Press is simply an imprint of my company, Zoe Health, which is public health focused, where art meets medicine. It right now focuses predominantly on works that I create, as in write, but it also includes, as in the case with Event Horizon, um, art commission pieces. Uh, uh, and also, most recently, prints that are totally has nothing to do with me, but we sell for benefits, whether it be for a clinic here in New York City that serves the uninsured. And that one actually scrolls down. You got to tell me if it doesn't automatically scroll down for you. It might have a little glitch on that page.
It's
Um,
not actually.
go to the go see. I got to fix that. Go to the right all the way, and then do it that way. I think people miss out on that, so I'm a little worried. Anyway, so that's simply what Janice Point is. And it's, sometimes I table under my author name and sometimes I table under Janice Point Press, depending on what I'm selling. And if I want to be emphasizing that I'm selling prints of specific artists, because for these three covers that you see behind me, I do have stickers, I do have prints. But I kickstart under my name, and this is food for thought for anyone that does this. I kickstart under my name because that's where all my backs, that's where everything I back. And I say that if you haven't started, figure out, do you want to kickstart under your imprint name or your creator name? And the reason why I stay with my name is I want people to understand that I back other projects. I definitely look at a creator's page to see if they've backed any projects before I decide to back them. And Kickstarter looks at that too.
Yeah, that was one of the mistakes I kind of made with Kickstarter, was like, it's everything in one name. My name, my YouTube, and my handles, also.
I know. We didn't know this. We didn't know it was going to be what it is. I think this is to go back to the question that I posed in the previous panel. There is a certain psychology of having people to understand your price point for a project, because people are used to, they have a Walmart mentality, right? Or a Target mentality that things should be cheap and things. And so part of the convincing now, yeah, when I say convincing, not the people in the campaign, because that are in the platform already. And I say this because when I use that advertising agency, when you understand, like I thought everyone was a broke artist on Kickstarter because there's so many artists on there, struggling artists. So it's probably not a nice term, but like I say that if realistically that, not superly funded people that do not have like that much of, does was it called? Expendable income or whatever the term is that I'm somehow blanking right now. But that's not the case, actually. When they give you the stats, when you work with these agencies, urban, was it middle class, upper middle class? There's money on Kickstarter, or people that are not too afraid or have that luxury of spending on art. But taking that to the outside, it I think it's more of a conversation of convincing people you just spent $20 on a salad that you just ate with a disposable fork, you know?
Right.
You go to, I don't even know how much a movie costs, so it's,
Oh,
right? Like,
17. So some movies are 17, 18.
right. So it does require a type of shift, a cultural shift and a value shift and how we interact with art. And that's why too, I love this platform so much because particularly for Event Horizon, how is I going to so easily convince people to purchase a $79 and $89 book? Right now, that has high quality art, photography, legendary graffiti artists' names, respected illustrators, et cetera, et cetera. I knew my first stop was Kickstarter because that's normal and more realistic to guess what it costs as an indie publisher, indie creator to print when you're not doing print runs over like 1,000. Um,
Yeah.
but have been not, I don't want to say surprised, but I've been pleased, when I do vend in events, I do get my sales for my hardcovers outside of the Kickstarter community. And when it hurts, they order ebooks on the spot. So yeah, it's translating that to the outside world. It doesn't translate well to Amazon.
This is the one she was just talking about. That was like a
Yeah, this one was 89. So this is the most expensive one. It's actually based on an original canvas by this artist, but yeah, I'm not going to try to flip it, but it's all in color, it's prose, it's photography. And this one was actually just acquired by the School of Visual Arts for their library collection. Yeah, so and actually I want to address the library things. I know that was a comment, I think Teresa thing, but that was a big goal of mine. You know, I would say like it's so tricky to say, goal. I'm not chasing fame. I'm not chasing money. Doesn't mean I don't want it. Doesn't mean, but I did want it in libraries, and particularly with the higher price point. And then to have a school that specifically focuses on the visual arts to appreciate the artistry of that cover, which you don't do. It's just based on a canvas. It's not positioned the right way. It felt good. It felt great. Um, so if I can kind of answer that question somebody had, Patrick, in the chat, like how do you get into libraries as a self-publisher? Well, first of all, make sure you have ISBNs. Make sure you do everything clean, right? Like I say this as someone that was a not librarian for 15 years, excuse me, almost 10 years at my kids' school, meaning I volunteered and functioned as one without the degree because they didn't have staff. Uh, I can't tell you how many comics I couldn't get into the system because there were not ISBNs or, whatever. What's the other number? So make sure you have that because that's just like barrier number one. And then as many reviews as you can get. For a prose writer, for myself, that means submitting to Kirkus Reviews, Publishers Weekly. But comics get in there too. It's hard. You're going to have to pay for some of those as an indie, and that doesn't guarantee that they're good. But if you want librarians to even look at you, and I say this too, as when BookCon, which is coming back next year, by the way, when it was still alive, and I would attend as a librarian, they would tell me, don't you ever mention or recommend to me, and this is before I had my books out, anything self-published or indie. We just don't do that. That's the culture. It's like, do not even waste my time. Does it mean all librarians are like that? Absolutely not. So getting those reviews really helps. Event Horizon got a great Kirkus review, which is hard to get. And I got one of the star Latino authors, Ernesto Quiñones, to agree to read it. And then he loved it and he wrote me a great review. So try to get reviews. Don't be shy to email people. Expect to be surprised like I did. I didn't have a connection with Ernesto Quiñones. And yet he was the first one that said yes and sent it back to me within 2 weeks. And people that I know and support said flat out no to me. I don't have time to do that. Like you don't know. That's why you do that. But outside of that, it is hard to get into libraries. The only other library besides so far that I know of, School of Visual Arts, that I'm in is the Chautauqua Institution, but that's because I won the prize, the Chautauqua Prize. So anything I publish, they acquire a copy or two. So they also have 2 copies of Event Horizon, one for display and one for circulation. For To Love Like Venus, and I feel like Bob, we were talking about that, or somebody else in the panel that I attended last week. I chose to do print on demand for this book. And I did it, to go back to the library question, for a number of reasons. I didn't want to spend money on this book after Event Horizon. I wanted to save my money for comics because comics are way more expensive. Although publishing prose is expensive too. This will cost me $5,000 to publish, to be upfront. When you hire copy editors, cover designer, interior designer, and proofreader, that all adds up. Still cheaper than comics. But print on demand, Ingram Spark is your way into libraries. I'm able to stomach. I haven't got, obviously, I haven't seen a result. I haven't gotten a proof because it's not ready yet. I know it's improved, but guess what? For my case, I'm doing prose. I don't have to be pretty inside. Prose readers don't care, right? Maybe genre fantasy, all the beautiful things on Kickstarter. That's not this book. I went all out with my other one. And also living in a New York City apartment, there's only so much Event Horizon furniture I can have. Like literally part of my furniture are disguised Event Horizon boxes. So having it with Ingram Spark, print on demand, also allows being in the system for libraries. Um, Things are going to get harder for libraries. I don't know if you guys know, Baker and Taylor is closing down. That's where libraries, the bulk of them, get their print books. So we will see how that plays out, if that makes Ingram Spark an even bigger player. I do hope that means more librarians and libraries will be more open to sending scouts, like at an event that I attended, to pick up indie artists. So I would say table at events, because you don't know if there's a librarian renegade like I was that goes to these indie events and is shopping for a new independent independent artist, because it is possible. To Sages for Libraries, also talk to your local librarian. Does not work for New York City, all right? Doesn't mean you don't try. I mean, it's a bigger system. I have a library in New York City that wants me to do a reading, but I can't get the parent, New York Public Library, to acquire Event Horizon. So, depending how, maybe if you guys live in smaller places, than the behemoth that is the New York Public Library, you might have better luck. So asking in person could help too. I do want to say one thing for Ingram Spark that also leads to the Kickstarter, Patrick. Like, why would I put this prose literary fiction book, which kind of doesn't fit on Kickstarter? The amount of money that I would get per book if you order it through Ingram Spark, or if you go to a bookstore that buys it from there. That's the other thing. This would be my first book that I actually allow to be sold into stores. I don't sell. Event Horizon is way too expensive for me to sell to a store. I just would break even. I would make an exception or two, let's say. Um, I pitched it to the El Museo del Barrio. They were almost going to do it. They got one of my anthologies instead. But if I, for To Love Like Venus, I wanted reach. But how much money do I make per copy if it sells? I think last I checked, 84 cents. So, um, by doing a Kickstarter, I have a chance at recovering what, $10 per copy? A big difference. And then you can order your author copies as you need, and have that profit margin. So that was another important reason why I did Ingram Spark this term, even though it's like really 84 cents for 3 years of writing of my life. But I will point out to you guys that it's just the irony of things. I make these my little zines in the playground. It doesn't take me that long. Highest profit margin and way more popular at my events.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I just started selling with Event Horizon, but yeah, my zines. I was like, wow, my zines pay me more money than the massive novels that take me like 3, 4 years, 5 years to write. The serious stuff. No, I had people in this last event I vended in, not to jinx myself, because like, you have slow days too. This was a crazy good event I did. And it was hosted by NYU. That was the other thing. Look for university things, guys. They have great guests that come, people that might be shopping from other big institutions. And in this case, the School of Visual Arts was there because they were invited by NYU. But I had people buying zines that I didn't have displayed on my table. They're like, wait, your sign says you have Star Wars zines. Where are they? I didn't have enough room for them on the table. Like, those sold out. I'm like, really, guys? Okay.
So thank you, Stephanie, for taking the time to chat with me and us.
Thank you. Thanks so
Uh,
much for having me. I think my biggest takeaway is, yeah, you could follow the rules, or you cannot follow the rules, and you can have fun like I am and just hopping around here and there and understanding that certain populations might not carry over to each of your campaigns, but that's okay too. And you'll meet some new people along the way. That's my summary.